Hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you like this video. With that, let's get into it. Cravings were something every person had long been used to, thanks to a soulmate system that had been implemented into the world since around the time quirks had started to emerge. Some claim the so-called system to be a byproduct of quirks emerging, and others believed it was something else entirely. The human race had evolved to develop superpowers, so maybe in some way it made sense for them to also develop a way for everyone to have that one perfect person exist for them and only them as well. And while the soulmate system was not as obvious as some quirks might be, they did have a way of showing themselves when people least expected them or wanted them to, and in a way that would take over one's sense of sanity much more than he thought possible. For God's sake. Bakugou grumbled as he started to feel a craving take over his mind, distracting him further from doing the schoolwork he needed to finish by tomorrow. But the allure of whatever his lovely chosen soulmate was eating was starting to make his mouth water, and it was making him sick to the stomach. Getting up from where he had sat on the floor next to a small table and making his way towards his door, the male began to mutter all sorts of things under his breath. It had been a year since he had pretty much demanded you and him. Test yourselves to see if the bond you had suspected for a few months was real or not. And with him and you both guessing correctly what the other was eating, he had found you his soulmate. You wouldn't lie, nor did he ever, but when he had found you, it seemed as if every ill-conceived idea he had originally about soulmates seemed to have been tossed out the window. Not because you were his soulmate, but rather because his soulmate was you. The crush had developed in first year, you having gotten the better of him at one time, but the damage had been done, and he found himself gravitating towards you, apparently having fallen for you with one single takedown. And how you couldn't help but be stunned silent by how gorgeous you looked when you realized you had bested one of the best in class. At the time, he claimed he was off his game, and still did today, but it was a perfect excuse to get you to start training with him more and more, and thus spend more time with you. His time with you only making him more and more confused as to his feelings, but eventually he got them and realized he had a huge crush on you, which eventually made him frustrated. But his frustration with his crush on you was nothing compared to his frustrations when he'd suddenly wake up in the middle of the night with a chocolate craving, or right in the middle of the day when he needed to focus on something else, and instead was now wanting a bubble tea flavored strawberry. Absurd, that's what it was. It wasn't until the end of first year, when his crush was in full swing, and his craving for hot chocolate had actually gotten him out of the dorm on a cold March evening, his eyes meeting yours as you passed by him on the ground of your A by the entrance to the school, your hands cupping a cup of some steaming beverage, the smell of warm milky chocolate reaching his nose as you passed him and carried on back to the dorm building you both shared. He had stopped dead in his tracks and watched you with white conflicted eyes. There was no way, right? It couldn't have just worked out like that, could it? After that moment, it seemed Bakugou had begun to pay extra attention to you. Everyone seemed to notice, from how he'd never let you fawn drift from his eyes at lunch, or when he'd bring out a granola bar at breaks between lessons, and see if you'd have to dash to the same vending machine he had gotten his from. It was confirmed right before summer break in your second year. The fact that the both of you were tied at the hip, or wrist, or whatever the saying was. He couldn't care. If anything, all he could care about was that he was glad he had ended up falling for you, as you, rather than trying to force you, or himself, into whatever this mess was supposed to be. The talk immediately afterward was strange. 2 awkward confessions and revelations that the crushes would eventually turn into something else. The mere idea of how you both were supposed to be with each other until your last breath was nothing less than stress-inducing. Bakugou wasn't having it though. At that moment, that he didn't give a shit about the cravings or what they meant. He liked you for you and wanted to date you, not because you were his shitty soulmate, but because you were his shitty crush. And that was how it had been. Bakugou was your boyfriend, and you were his girlfriend. The entire soulmate thing was of course still there, and by 3rd year, everyone in their class knew it, but with neither of you giving into the worries, and only wanting to cherish time with one another, because you both genuinely did and not because of some string of fate, made this work out as well as it did these last 6 months, or rather, made it worthwhile most of the time. Right now was not one of them, especially with the craving of cake batter on his mind and the sounds of laughter coming from down the common room. Bakugou stomping out to find you, Roundface, and Frog Girl, and a few other girls, all surrounding a mixing bowl, with your fingers dipped in batter. And one satisfied girl, Mina said, as she licked it off her fingertips. Did we decide on cupcakes or a cake? Jiro asked, wiping her finger dry with a rag on the counter. Let's do cupcakes, and we can all decorate them and see whose cupcake looks the best. Mina was already starting to put the cupcake wrapper into the dance. I like that idea, Kiro. She nodded, detaching the bowl from the mixer and starting to pour the batter in. You smirked, quickly dipping your fingers under the pouring stream and plopped them into your mouth again. You hummed, the girls laughing slightly before suddenly going quiet. A shadow had come up from behind you, and you were the last to realize it, before it was too late. I knew it. You're eating more of that sugary shit. Bakugou spooked you, causing you to jump. Ah, Katsuki! You spun around, looking at him with a light glare. Don't scare me like that. He grits his teeth, looking towards the cupcakes that were still being poured into the dance. The girls having moved on, long used to the antics of you, Bakugou, and your soulmate connection. It was best for them to not get involved, but for sure eavesdrop, as you all found it interesting and sometimes sweet how you both interacted. Stop eating so much sugary shit, and maybe I'll consider it, he grumbled, looking like he was seriously considering snarling at the small cakes going into the oven. Oh, come on, you whined. It's not fair that I can't eat what I want just because you start to crave it. That's not the issue, dumbass, he spoke back, pointing to the batter spilled on the counter. It's that I hate sweet shit, and all I ever do is eat it. Sorry, Katsuki, you puffed out your cheeks, but I'm not going to stop eating sweets just because you're not fond of them. His eyebrows were raised, and his lips twitched. So this is how we're playing it, huh? I'm not playing at anything. I'm just telling you it's unfair to me. You shook your head, holding up a finger. If I want to eat sweets, I will. Bakugou turned from you and started to walk away. You blinked, having not expected him to give up on this so easily. In all honesty, you were expecting the pair of you to go back and forth a few times until one of you eventually gave in. But watching him retreat back and not speak made you feel suspicious. Bakugou was not the type to just give in because he felt like it. Something was going on, and you had a feeling something was up his sleeve. Sure enough, you watched the mail turn to the fridge. He nonchalantly opened it, looking inside, and then smirked to himself, the smirk that just told you he was planning something devious. The girls behind you had all fallen not only silent, but the sounds of movement had all died down, so everyone was watching him, and he did love an audience. He reached inside, taking something out, and then shut the fridge. You still couldn't see exactly what he had taken out, but in the next moment, you knew. The sound of a bottle opening, and suddenly, your mind and mouth going into a full craving was enough to make you know that your asshole of a boyfriend and soulmate was getting his revenge. Katsuki, are you drinking hot sauce? You cried, knowing that he was well aware of your hatred for spicy things. Bakugou paused in his vicious gulping down of the hot sauce that only he could have, as it made pretty much everyone else burst into tears, and then scarfed down an entire loaf of bread to feel any sort of relief. You said it yourself. Bakugou smirked, taking another sip. I'm not gonna curb down my favorite tastes just because you don't like it. But you're drinking hot sauce, Katsuki. He shrugged. So, you're eating sugar, raw eggs, and flour, just as nasty as what I'm doing. Except the hot sauce actually tastes good. Oh, he darkly chuckled, reaching for an oven mat. You're going to get it now. You watched as he took out the half-baked cupcake, the outside cooked, but the inside still runny. Then you were devouring it, making eye contact with him the entire time. Bakugou's eyes twitching, so you wanted the competition to see who would break first, huh? If so, you're going to lose. Sure enough, the next 30 minutes were the two of you shoving all sorts of sweet or spicy things into your mouth, and by the time the kitchen was even more of a mess, and the girls had left the cupcakes to cool, and let you two handle whatever the eggless was, both yourself and the hash blonde were complaining about stomach aches. I feel like I'm going to barf, you whined, trying to control your breathing as to not expel your stomach contents. Your fault if you do, and if I do, he snarled, already having a bucket by his side. My fault? You jumped, regretting it moments later. I didn't eat all the damn pepper in the fridge. At least didn't scarf down an entire tub of frosting like an animal. He growled. Oh, shut up. You laughed. I had to do something to stop myself from carrying wasabi. So it was an entire tub? Not even a little spoonful? Bakugou shook his head. You're go big or go home, huh? Look at yourself first, he smirked, pumping your shoulder against his. You're one lucky gal, when... He chuckled. Not every guy would eat a ghost pepper for you. Well, I wish no guy would. You sighed, leaning your head on his shoulder. Hey. He called to you, your eyes meeting his. Don't bark for me, or I'll kill you. You smiled. I love you too, Katsuki. He scoffed. I'm serious, you moron. A moment of silence, and you waited patiently. But I guess I love you too, you idiot. Thank you guys for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. I hope you enjoyed listening to this as much as I did making it. Anyway, goodbye.